Hi, I'm here with 2K producer Seth Olshfski, producer of the upcoming Darkness 2 video game. I was a big fan of the first game when it came out. I was so excited. I kind of just heard about it. I read the comic, and then I saw they were making a game out of it, and immediately I jumped all over it, and I was a huge fan of the game. I guess we'll start off with how'd the idea of a sequel come up, because considering the way that the first game ended, I didn't think there was going to be a lot of room, even though deep down in my heart I was like, oh, I want a sequel, I want a sequel, I really want a sequel. And lo and behold, Mark Silvestri was like, hey, guess what? Darkness 2 sequel coming out. So could you fill in on that?
Yeah, actually, it is great showing this off to Mark, because like we've changed the visual style from the first game. You know, like the first game was very realistic, and this game is a visual style more like graphic noir is what we're calling it. It's intended to look very much like the original graphic novels, like the Top Cow graphic novels with Mark Silvestri's art. So that change was as soon as we made that visual change a couple of years ago, we showed him, and he completely fell in love with it. So he's like, that's the way that it's supposed to look. That is the way that Jackie is supposed to look. And we're like, yes, that is success. So it's great having Mark really kind of enthusiastic about the game. As far as the sequel, you know, from Darkness 1 to Darkness 2, I think if you make something great, and you feel like there's still more story to tell, then it's always okay to crack it back open, as long as you're really respectful of the first one, like the original. Like, you're really respectful of what has been created before. And so that was really, that was one of the things that was really important to the development team. Like, everybody on the development team loved the first game. We as the publisher, of course, loved the first game. And so as we made the second one, you know, very core to our day-to-day, like one of the pillars was that it was respect for the first Darkness game. So one of the things that we did was Paul Jenkins wrote a bunch of the comics. He wrote the first game, and he wrote the second game. So you need that guy who understands the narrative of the Top Cow universe and also understands the narrative of the first game and knows how to make sure that the second game works with the same plot. So he's up to the same sort of sneaky tricks narrative-wise as he was in the first game.
So can you tell us a little bit about the plot? Are there going to be any returning characters?
Actually, a lot of the if they didn't, I can't even say that. If they did die, they might be back. But if they didn't die, and they're still around, like a lot of the characters that you loved in the first game are back in the second. Already in the demo, somebody talks about Aunt Sarah. She's back. You know, a lot of the people that you did meet and like from the first game have returned in the second. The thing that we were strictest about from a plot standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, was the first game. This is 2 years after the events of the first game, and we haven't sort of retconned anything that happened in the first game. We were very respectful of the narrative that we had.
Now, in terms of gameplay, are there any notable changes and updates, such as combat, AI, powers? Powers were always like a huge thing in the first game. You had like the tentacles, Spike, and the black hole, and the darkness guns and such. So could you comment on if there are any like notable changes like that?
It's a huge change in combat. In the first game, you start as Jackie as kind of a mafia grunt, and you're good at shooting guns, but nothing else. And then he discovers that he has the darkness powers, and by the end of the game, he's mastered it. That is where we wanted to start the second game. You already have mastery over the darkness, and you will only grow significantly more powerful over time. So, if you remember the end of the first game, there was a cinematic sequence where the demon arms kind of like started to go wild and leapt out and were biting people's heads off and slashing people in half. And so we were watching that going like, that is awesome. I want to control that. I want to do that myself. I want that to be the gameplay. So that was one of the first things that we did, was give the player full control over both of the demon arms. We call it quad wielding. You have dual wielding with 2 guns, and then you also have the demon arms on the screen, which you can use fully under your control at all times. The right one is a slashing demon arm. You can knock somebody out of the way, you can cut somebody in half, you can knock somebody's arm off, you can take off their leg, you can chop off their head. Like you have full control over where you slice using that demon arm. And you can use it at the same time as the guns. You can use it at the same time as the other demon arm, which is a grabbing demon arm. The grabbing demon arm, you can pick up some rebar and throw it at somebody like a spear, skewer them through the head and stick them to the wall. You can pick up an enemy by his throat and then slash his head off with the other demon arm. You can pick up a car door and use it as a riot shield while you use both of your guns to shoot through the window and then slash somebody else with the other demon arm, all at the same time. It's really fluid, really active combat, which makes you feel incredibly powerful from the get-go. And you also asked about powers. Not only do we have the quad wielding, which is sort of the core power, which is the demon arms, we also have a skill tree, which is 40 powers deep. So
wow.
There's you can buy talent after talent after talent. And so when you're quad wielding, maybe you're a guy who likes slashing more. Dive down the slashing demon arm tree. You can get demonic lift, which is something that if you slash somebody up in the air, before you buy demonic lift, they'll fly up in the air and then they'll land down on the ground. After you buy demonic lift, you slash them up in the air, they fly up to about gun height and float there helplessly for about a second, and then they fall. So while they're floating there, helpless, you can shoot them. You can do kind of a selective slash and take off their legs maybe, or you can grab them with the demon arm and perform a demon arm execution, which is new to Darkness 2. The first game had gun executions. We've upped the ante on that and doing executions with demon arms. So maybe that guy's floating in the air helplessly and you'll grab one leg with one demon arm. You can grab the other leg with the other demon arm and pull them right apart, crotch to head. Call it the wishbone. It's really fun. Are
you sure you're a game developer? Like, what do you do in your spare time to come up with this stuff?
Oh, you know, everybody on the team, actually, they're all from, it's London, Ontario. Everyone's really polite and friendly and Canadian, and they're really nice people, and you're like, where did you think of this? Why did you think you were going to, like, do the anaconda where you grab them, wrap them up with one demon arm, and then send the other one right through their heart? Like, where do you think of these things? They're really nice people. It must be repressed Canadian rage. I'm not sure. But it is there's sort of when you combine the violence of the gameplay with the visual style, which is very much like the graphic novels, it's sort of joyous. It feels right. It's really fun to play.
Oh, the graphics I thought were really cool in the original one, and I kind of liked. I mean, and I love Mark's original artwork, but it's very vibrant. Oddly enough, for something called The Darkness, but the game was a lot of those like great mute gray tones. It's just and very gritty, very gritty, and that's gonna stay consistent with this one too, I assume.
Actually, the gritty and the high contrast and the dark, yes, but we have gone a different direction with the visual style. We wanted it to look a lot more like Mark Silvestri's work. Like, we went to the original comic books, we're looking at those, we're like, there's a lot of full black and then really dark next to the full black. But there's also bright pops of color. There's bright saturated red blood, and there's bright saturated greens and purples, and we're like, that's cool. That looks amazing. Let's do that. So the visual style of the game is definitely high contrast colors. All of the textures are hand painted. We tried to do it in a more systemic way, but it looks best when you have illustrators go through the game and actually physically paint every corner and every nook and every cranny and every texture. So you'll see sort of little hatch marking, like pen shaders from a comic book. You'll see really kind of bright stepped colors, kind of like a comic book colorist would do. And at the same time, like that graphic noir visual style really supports the kind of ultra-violent quad-wielding gameplay, because, you know, you're splitting somebody in half and watching their entrails go flying. That is what you do in the comics all the time. I mean, it's what Silvestri drew all the time, and it just feels right because it looks like you're playing a graphic novel.
Now, what about these guys, the Darklings, which are, you know, the funny little helpers of the darkness? Are we going to have, because I remember in the original game you had a gunner and a demolitions type and a couple other ones. Are we going to have new classes of these? And are they all going to be wearing dead kitten hats?
Well, it's he's actually a little bit bigger. This is probably a dead cat. He skinned it. He wanted to look like a barbarian. Kind of works. No, actually, what we wanted to do, and this was Paul Jenkins' kind of vision, the Darkling was intended in the second game to be part of the narrative. He's part of the plot. And in order for him to be part of the plot, he has to sort of be, to be Jackie's sidekick, to be part of the narrative, you need one guy. And so we focused all of the sort of Darkling fun into the one Darkling who is with you at all times. He's part of the narrative, and he's constantly in combat with you, helping you out. When there were multiple Darklings and there were different ones that you could pull out at different times, you couldn't actually use them in the narrative because you didn't know who you were attached to. So we took all of the power of all of those Darklings and combined it into this one guy, and then he's always running around with you, grabbing people by the leg and pulling them out of cover so that you can shoot them, jumping on their shoulders and covering their eyes and riding them like it's a rodeo. You can pick them up. Well, you have to buy this talent, but if you buy the talent, you can pick up the Darkling and throw him at people, and he explodes like a grenade. And then he comes back, but he still doesn't like it. So
he holds a grudge?
Well, I don't know that he holds a grudge, but when you have him lifted up with your grabbing demon arm, he just doesn't look very happy. But that's okay. You know, he returns back, and there's joy in the violence. I mean, he does run around in this demo kind of every once in a while yelling, "Pain is funny." And it is in the game. So, yeah, no, the Darkling is absolutely a core part of the gameplay, and he's a core part of the narrative.
Can we expect any other Top Cow characters to show up, like the Angelus or the Witchblade, or even Sonatine from the original Darkness comics?
Well, we're not trying to, in this game, retcon like Mark Silvestri's Top Cow universe. We're not saying that they don't exist here. Like, the universe is the universe is the universe. It's just that for this game, we're focusing on Jackie's story as the Darkness.
So kind of how like Batman Arkham Asylum is sticking with Batman and not like Superman and Green Lantern. You're just sticking to the Darkness.
We're focusing on Jackie's narrative.
Excellent. Now, the game comes out next year?
Yep, February 7th. PC, PS3, and 360.
How do you think Darkness 2 is going to stand out amongst other games that are coming out around the time?
You know, when you play it, you love it. And that's part of why we bring it to all of these shows, is that, like, watching videos or hearing interviews or seeing screenshots, like, it definitely looks great. Like, the game's visually really strong. But playing with quad wielding, like being able to not only shoot, but also to slice people, also to pick people up, also to, like, run right into the middle of battle and eat a heart to gain some health back. It's so active and it's so fun that, like, I'm really confident, and the team is really confident, that just the quad-wielding combat alone makes us stand out completely from every other game that's out there. Part of my proof of that, I think, is that every time I pick up, I mean, because I'm a big gamer, not just the game that we're making, every time I pick up another shooter, I'm like, I feel so nerfed. Why can't I slash this guy? Where are my demon arms? This is lame. Like, it doesn't really matter what the shooter is. I really want my quad-wielding back. It feels like just a feature that is indispensable. So that will absolutely, like, make us stand out from the crowd.
And Mike Patton has returned to voice the Darkness, correct?
Mike Patton has returned to voice the Darkness. Kind of couldn't do it without him.
What was it like working with Mike Patton?
He found it again so quickly. Like, you play a couple of the lines for him, and you're like, that's what you did in the first game. And he's like, oh, I'm there. And then he could just make that voice happen for, like, a full 4-hour recording session. It's amazing. Like, the endurance that he has on his terribly tortured vocal cords are incredible. And so, like, it was really easy. Like, we knew exactly what we wanted. He knew exactly how to make it happen. And he was just great to work with. He was great to work with.
And one last question. I remember there being some really cool little kind of Easter egg stuff in Darkness 1, such as you can watch the entirety of To Kill a Mockingbird early on in the game with Jenny. Can we expect anything like that in this one?
So you call it Easter egg stuff, but if we give it away here, then how is it going to be Easter egg stuff when you actually buy the game?
Well, I'm not saying, say it and stuff, but can we expect more of that kind of stuff to pop up?
We're definitely trying to make Darkness 2 very much inspired about what was cool about Darkness 1. So a lot of the stuff that you like from the first one, we're trying to do in the second.
Excellent. Well, Darkness comes out February
7th of next year.
Be sure to buy it, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
And now we're going to go test play it.
Done playing the test version of Darkness 2. Looks great, sounds great, plays great. I'm really excited to check it out when it comes out in February. Definitely going to be buying it, and I hope you guys do as well.